A truth so devastating, it will shatter everything you believed about love. She gave him her soul. He gave her silence. She offered her heart. He offered his absence. She whispered forever. He whispered goodbye. The cruelest irony of human connection. Love is not what keeps a man. Love is what drives him away. For centuries, we've been told the greatest lie ever sold to the feminine heart. That love conquers all. That devotion wins devotion. That the depth of your feeling determines the strength of your bond. We were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. What I'm about to reveal will disturb you. It will challenge every romantic notion you've ever held sacred. It will force you to confront a truth so uncomfortable that most women spend their entire lives running from it. The woman who loves hardest is often the woman who ends up alone. But here's what they never tell you, and what I've discovered through decades of studying the architecture of human desire. Men don't leave because you love too little. They leave because you love too much of the wrong things. While you've been perfecting the language of devotion, he's been speaking an entirely different dialect, one written in the ancient code of masculine psychology, carved by evolution, and misunderstood by nearly every woman alive. 3 psychological triggers. 3 primal needs. 3 secrets that separate the women men leave from the women they can't live without. Miss them, and your love becomes the very thing that repels him. Master them, and you become the one woman he'll cross oceans to keep. Are you brave enough to learn what love really is? Or will you keep wondering why loving with everything you have somehow became the reason you lost everything you wanted? The answer lies in the shadows of what you thought you knew about men, about love, about yourself. Welcome to the truth they never taught you. Dr. Helen Fisher, anthropologist at Rutgers University, spent over 30 years studying the brain chemistry of attraction. Her research revealed something shocking. Men and women literally operate on different neurological frequencies when it comes to bonding. While women's brains light up in areas associated with emotional connection and empathy, men's brains activate in regions tied to achievement, territory, and hierarchical positioning. This isn't sexism, it's biology. Harvard Business School's research on relationship dynamics found that 73% of men who left long-term relationships cited feeling emotionally diminished rather than unloved. They didn't leave because the love wasn't there. They left because something else was missing. What was missing? 3 neurochemical responses that trigger what researchers call secure masculine attachment. Dopamine release from feeling respected and valued. Oxytocin production from feeling purposeful and needed. Serotonin stabilization from feeling emotionally safe. Here's the breakthrough. These aren't conscious desires. They're subconscious drives embedded so deeply in male psychology that most men can't even articulate them. Think about your last relationship that didn't work out. I'm willing to bet you gave him love, affection, care, attention, support, maybe even sacrificed your own needs for his. But did you activate these 3 specific triggers? Did you know they even existed? Most women don't. And that's why most relationships fail. Not because there wasn't enough love, but because love was speaking a language he couldn't hear, while his deepest psychological needs went completely unmet. The women who do understand this don't just get the guy, they keep him. They don't compete with other women because there is no competition. They've learned to speak directly to the primal part of his brain that determines long-term attachment. Here's what those 3 triggers actually look like in practice. Trigger 1. Respect the oxygen he can't live without. The first thing a man craves, more than sweet words or passionate declarations, is respect that feels earned, not given. Not the polite surface-level respect you'd show a stranger, but the deep recognition that comes from your eyes when he speaks. from how you respond when he takes initiative, from the way you trust his judgment, even when you disagree. For him, love without respect feels hollow, suffocating even. This goes back to his earliest programming. From childhood, boys learn that respect must be conquered, never freely given. That worth comes from proving yourself, being strong enough, smart enough, capable enough. Most men grew up believing that respect is the ultimate currency, more valuable than affection, more meaningful than words. When he senses your respect wavering, even when your love remains strong, something fundamental shuts down inside him. You can say "I love you" 1,000 times, care for him, be present and devoted, but if he feels that your admiration hangs by a thread, dependent on his perfect performance, he begins to wither. He becomes silent, withdrawn, defensive. Not because he doesn't love you, but because he can't bear feeling like a disappointment in your eyes. Here's what this looks like in real life. You might think you're being helpful when you offer suggestions, corrections, or alternative approaches. But he often interprets this as a subtle message: you're not quite good enough. When this pattern repeats, he stops trying altogether. Remember that confident, decisive man you first met? The one who planned dates, solved problems, took charge? Watch what happens when he feels your respect slipping away. He becomes passive, waiting for you to make decisions, only acting when prompted. This isn't laziness. It's emotional shutdown. He's stopped trying to impress you because he believes he's already failed. Your love is still there, but the respect, the thing that makes him feel worthy of that love, has evaporated. The respect he craves shows up in moments like these. When you say, "I trust your judgment on this," instead of immediately offering your opinion. When you let him handle a situation his way, even if you do it differently. When you acknowledge his efforts before pointing out what could be improved. When you ask for his input instead of announcing your decision. That simple phrase, "I trust how you handle this," can ignite something powerful in him. It tells him he matters, that his presence changes your reality for the better. The cruelest irony? This often happens with women who care most deeply. Strong, intelligent, capable women who want everything to work perfectly. In their effort to optimize everything, they accidentally strip away his role as someone who adds value, someone worth following. The relationship loses its natural polarity. You feel overwhelmed and alone. He feels unnecessary and defeated. Both of you drift apart without understanding why. Here's the question that might change everything. In your desire to love him your way, have you forgotten to respect him in his? This doesn't mean accepting disrespect or becoming passive. It means recognizing that for him, respect isn't optional. It's the foundation that makes love possible. The woman who understands this creates space for him to succeed, to contribute, to matter. She becomes the place where he feels capable instead of criticized, valued instead of corrected. And that becomes irresistible. Trigger 2. Purpose. The need to be your hero. The second psychological trigger men crave more than love is feeling essential to your happiness. Not needed, but irreplaceable. This isn't about rescuing you from burning buildings or fighting off attackers. It's something far more subtle and infinitely more powerful. The deep desire to feel uniquely important in your world, to know that he plays a role no one else could fill. Men are biologically wired for purpose. It's carved into their DNA. For millennia, male worth was measured by the ability to provide, protect, and solve problems. That hunter-gatherer programming still pulses through modern men. He doesn't need to hunt with spears anymore, but the drive remains. He must feel useful. When he senses that anyone could take his place in your life, something inside him begins to disconnect. Because for him, love without purpose feels empty, He needs to feel that beside you, he's more than just company. He's part of your emotional foundation. This isn't about dependence, it's about relevance. Watch what happens when you ask for his help and he actually makes a difference. When you validate his ideas and he feels heard. When you acknowledge his efforts and he sees the real impact. Relationship experts call this the hero instinct. It's not about solving every problem. It's about feeling significant in ways only he can provide. Maybe it's his perspective on a decision you're making. His arms when you need comfort. His advice when you're struggling. Or something as simple as him fixing that squeaky door. When he sees it, genuinely makes your life easier. It activates something primal in him that draws him closer. He wants to be the man who strengthens you, not just the one who happens to be there. Have you noticed how some men become apathetic over time? How they stop doing small, thoughtful things, opening doors, planning surprises, taking initiative? Often this isn't disinterest. It's emotional shutdown. He tried. You didn't seem to notice, or worse, you corrected his approach. He offered help. You said you could handle it. He planned something. You reorganized it. And when this pattern repeats, he stops trying. He becomes cold, settling for the bare minimum, not because he wants to, but because he's learned that his contributions don't matter. And here's the thing, no man, no matter how strong, can stay somewhere he feels useless. The recognition he craves isn't about stroking his ego. It's about strengthening your bond. When you genuinely acknowledge something he did, even something small, you create an emotional anchor. A signal that says, I see you and you matter. That I see you is more powerful than any casual I love you, because it connects him to a sense of purpose. And purpose is what keeps him invested. There's a simple phrase that triggers this feeling without making you seem needy or helpless. This is so much easier with you. It's simple, but it carries profound meaning. It tells him his presence changes your reality, that he has real influence in your life. The mistake many women make, constantly demonstrating independence. Showing they can handle everything alone, need no help, have it all under control. While self-sufficiency is admirable, when taken too far, it sends an unintended message. There's no space for you here. He doesn't want to be needed out of desperation. He wants to feel there's room for him to contribute something meaningful. When you occupy every role, he understands there's no function for him. And when he realizes that, he begins to detach. The irony is heartbreaking. Many women show excessive independence to avoid appearing weak, but end up appearing unreachable. What he sees isn't strength, it's a wall. Not confidence, it's closure. The result? You attract exactly what you don't want, a distant, passive, uninvested man. All because he stopped feeling relevant. So ask yourself, do you let him feel like a crucial part of your life, or just an accessory? Have you, in your effort to protect yourself, filled every role without leaving space for what naturally draws him closer? Deep down, a man doesn't want to rescue you. He just wants to matter to you. When he truly feels that, everything changes. He stops pulling away. He stops being passive. He engages, invests, shows up, because the man who feels like a hero in your life becomes the guardian of your peace. The woman who understands this, who creates space without diminishing herself, who acknowledges without losing herself, who invites contribution without demanding it, becomes magnetic. Because she activates what no other woman can, his desire to stay, to care, to protect, not from obligation, but from authentic desire. Trigger 3. Emotional safety, the rarest gift of all. After he feels respected, after he knows he matters in your life, comes the third trigger. This is the most delicate, the most crucial, and the most misunderstood. Because no matter how admired he feels, no matter how important his role, if this final piece is missing, he can never fully open his heart. The third thing men crave more than love itself is emotional safety without judgment. And this is where most relationships completely fall apart. From boyhood, men learn that emotions are dangerous territory, that tears equal weakness, that expressing fear, doubt, or vulnerability invites attack. They heard phrases like, "Man up, boys don't cry, don't be such a baby." Even today's more conscious, emotionally aware men still carry this ancient programming. If I show my full self, I become less valuable. So when he opens up to you, even slightly, he's fighting against every instinct he's ever learned. What happens in that moment determines everything. Does he move closer, or does he never risk it again? If he senses you're listening impatiently, responding to fix him, storing ammunition for later arguments, minimizing his feelings, or worse, judging him for having them, that door slams shut forever. And when a man closes that emotional door, he doesn't just lock it. He builds a wall. Most women completely miss this because their intentions are good. They think, "I was just trying to help, offer perspective, encourage him to process differently." But what felt like support to you felt like judgment to him. What seemed like helpful advice felt like criticism of his emotional reality. Here's what he's really seeking when he's vulnerable. Not solutions, but sanctuary. He wants to know that even in his messiest moments, he hasn't lost your respect. He wants permission to be imperfect without being made smaller for it. He needs to feel that your love doesn't depend on his emotional performance. This is incredibly rare. Most men go their entire lives without experiencing this. They have drinking buddies, work colleagues, people to laugh with, but someone who looks at them in their lowest moments and communicates through presence, silence, and touch. "You're safe here. I'm not going anywhere." That's almost impossible to find. And that's exactly what makes a woman unforgettable. It's not her beauty, her intelligence, or how much she gives. It's what she represents when his world is falling apart. As therapist David Deida explains, the masculine seeks in the feminine a place where it can remove its armor. Not physical armor, but emotional protection. A place where he can simply be human without performing, proving, or pretending everything's fine when it's not. When he finds this place, he will fight to keep it. But creating emotional safety requires understanding his language of vulnerability. Sometimes he'll go silent instead of explaining. Sometimes he'll say, "I'm fine," when he's clearly not. Sometimes he'll withdraw physically when he's overwhelmed emotionally. Your response in these moments changes everything. If you pursue, demand explanations, or insist on immediate processing, he'll retreat further. Not because he doesn't trust you, but because he's still determining whether his emotional reality is safe with you. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't conversation. It's a gentle touch on his shoulder. Making his coffee without questions. Sitting quietly beside him. Simply saying, "I'm here." No pressure. "If you want to talk, I'll listen." This might seem passive to you, but to him it's everything. Because in that gesture, he understands that acceptance isn't something he has to earn. It's something he already has. This transforms the entire emotional dynamic of your relationship. He begins to feel free. And when a man feels emotionally free, he gives himself completely. Important distinction. Emotional safety doesn't mean approving everything or accepting disrespect. It means separating the man from his pain, understanding that behind anger often lies fear. Behind coldness lives exhaustion. Behind silence sits confusion. It's not about excusing bad behavior. It's about seeing the human being underneath it. This understanding, when it comes from a grounded, centered woman, has transformative power. Neuroscience confirms that deep male bonding happens primarily through experiences of unconditional acceptance. It's not the most fun woman, the most beautiful, or the most giving who wins his heart long term. It's the woman beside whom he felt emotionally whole. This happens in the smallest moments. When he admits a mistake and you don't look disappointed. When he shares a fear and you don't use it against him later. When he fails and you don't make him feel smaller, but simply stay present. Here's the question that could change everything. Are you a safe harbor or just another person he has to impress? Does he feel lighter beside you or just more pressure not to disappoint? Often, the women who love most deeply also demand most intensely. What should feel like love starts feeling like constant evaluation. What should be acceptance becomes emotional performance reviews. And gradually he stops sharing anything real. But when he finds someone who doesn't require perfection, just presence, something magical happens. He begins revealing everything, the mistakes, the fears, the doubts, the dreams. And in that vulnerability, true intimacy is born. A man might desire many women, but he bonds with the one beside whom he doesn't have to be half of himself to be accepted. The most powerful part. When he feels emotionally safe with you, he becomes protective of that safety. He starts listening more deeply, including you more completely, prioritizing your relationship above everything else. Because in his competitive, demanding, pressure-filled world, you become the only place where he can truly breathe. And no one abandons the only place where they can breathe. Now you know. It was never just about love. It was never about giving more, trying harder, or proving your worth. What truly captures a man's heart goes far beyond what you feel for him. It's about what he feels about himself when he's with you. Love might touch him, might move him, but it only holds him when it comes with 3 experiences that matter more than any words ever could. The respect that makes him feel worthy. The purpose that makes him feel essential. The safety that makes him feel free. When these 3 psychological triggers align, everything transforms. The man who is pulling away starts moving closer. The one who went silent begins sharing. The one living on autopilot starts choosing you consciously. Because he doesn't just feel loved, he feels seen, valued, and at peace. This is what determines whether he sees you as temporary or as the woman he simply cannot lose. The woman who masters this doesn't need to be perfect. She just needs to be conscious of her energy, her responses, the way she positions herself in his emotional world. She doesn't chase love because she becomes irresistible. She represents something no man easily finds, a place where he can be completely himself without masks, without performance, without fear. Just him as he truly is. And that, my friend, is absolutely unforgettable. In the end, we return to where we began, but now we see it with new eyes. Love was never the enemy. Blind love was. For too long, we've worshipped at the altar of romantic mythology, believing that intensity equals intimacy, that sacrifice equals significance, that giving everything means getting everything in return. We confused love with transaction, devotion with desperation, connection with possession. But here lies the final paradox that will set you free. The moment you stop trying to make him love you is the moment he can't stop loving you. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you become worth chasing. The moment you stop proving is the moment you become proven. The moment you stop needing is the moment you become needed. This is the ancient alchemy of attraction. You must first become whole to make another complete. You see, the 3 triggers: respect, purpose, safety. They're not manipulations to be deployed. They're reflections of your own inner transformation. They're the natural emanation of a woman who has learned the most radical act of all. To love herself first. When you respect yourself, he feels respected. When you have purpose, he finds his purpose through you. When you feel safe in your own skin, he finds safety in your presence. The woman men can't forget isn't the one who loves them most. She's the one who loves herself enough to love them properly. This is not a strategy. This is not a game. This is the fundamental truth of human connection that poets have whispered about for millennia, and psychologists have only recently dared to measure. Love is not something you do. Love is something you become. And when you become love itself, grounded, purposeful, unshakable, you don't attract men who need to be convinced to stay. You magnetize the man who recognizes home when he sees it. The choice has always been yours. It was never about changing him. It was always about becoming her, the woman you were meant to be before the world taught you that love was something you had to earn. Welcome to your power. Welcome to your truth. Welcome to the love that doesn't leave. The revolution begins with you.